makes really big waveforms. I know how much you enjoy your
I love
waveforms.
I like my waveforms big and dummy thick, so as I can get my ears all around them, and I feel them when they go in and out.
Okay.
What the fuck's going on down there?
Hey, Aaron, what's up?
Not much.
That one was
car
real
fun on the way back from Origins.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're back from Origins, so welcome to WTF
Yeah.
at TCG. We're doing an episode by ourselves. No spoilers to reveal. No
I
Watsy
think
people.
John's in the air right now, so he can't butt in on this one.
That's right.
Unless he paid for the in-air Wi-Fi. John, are you there? You have to say something.
We are answering the call of some hypothetical listener I made up, which is, hey, you should do more TCG podcasts. So
I actually heard that from a few people.
Well,
this
guess
weekend,
what,
so-
everyone? You're getting what you wanted. We're doing some more TCG podcasts. This is actually because Aaron was just at Origins. I think I probably said you were at Gen Con at some point during that, but ignore that.
Yeah.
You were at
Whatever.
Origins, where
Yes.
you went to play some Transformers TCG, get your hands on at least one pack of Siege. You saw Ken Nagel and John Shork, and you failed to win.
Yeah, I ended up going 3-3.
That's actually, I
And
think, pretty darn good given what
I
was.
felt pretty good about it, especially since this is my first time going to any sort of organized play thing, and I wasn't really playing there were a lot of talk around other competitors Saturday morning and even Saturday afternoon, which I didn't play in that one just due to timing and brain leaking out my ears. But there was a lot of talk of everybody knows he's playing, there were, what was it, for the final 16 there were 9 people playing basically the same deck.
Yeah, the big deck that won, we should say, was it's the 3 wide that I've seen bandied around for the last, I think, about 3 months. Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend teamed up with Flame War and Sentinel's Hot Rod. So that you basically you have a tough blocker in Hot Rod, you've got tough boosting in Flame War, who's also just the most efficient 5-star when you don't have anything else to do more specifically with a 5-star, and then you have Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, who is ridiculously powerful, and that's a 3-wide team of 23 stars, leaving you with 2 star cards. It's a known powerful deck. It is, I would say it's still not the strongest deck in the game, because people can counter it. But
that was even the interesting thing, is they're a Bugs deck still beats this up, and aerial bots can grind it down.
Let me give this one to everyone out there who's tired of the bugs, depending on their area. Actually, Toronto, I should give us all a pat in the back. Not a whole lot of bugs action in Toronto when we're doing casuals. So,
well, it's up in Canada, and it's harder for insects to survive up there.
Exactly. But bugs did get beaten out by this 3-wide in the top 4.
It did.
And I think this 3-wide has a lot of power. Aerial bots, yes, I think are an answer to it. I believe also if you just build something just where it's I'm going to kill Optimus Prime, I think that's another developable hard counter. I'm saying this waving my hands around because in my limited casual experience, Optimus Prime, if you really just concentrate on the idea you have to deal with him, you can put together stuff that'll do it. Something about this tournament is that a bunch of people, a whole bunch of people hedge their bet on, if I run this deck or bugs or sentinels, then I have a better chance to win, and as far as I understand it, those decks are not necessarily hard counters.
Right.
Because they're Sentinels and the bugs are hitting really hard usually. We haven't seen the deck list yet, obviously. I think one could easily assume the top Insecticon decks were probably orange, and I myself would assume the top Sentinels decks were running orange with the bold characters.
Actually, the one that was in the final, I think, was a blue bugs.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's already more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Or at least that player was playing blue bugs on Saturday.
And it's worth noting, we also don't know the sideboards for most of those decks, which make this conversation a lot different.
Yeah.
A lot
because
different.
that was again what they were talking about, where with that they had Nemesis on the sideboard for if they were going up against aerial bots, that you swap in Nemesis and a few other things to be able to direct out stuff. Or so, they were getting I enjoy playing this game. I love the kitchen table, probably FLGS, if I can get them convinced to get past the chicken and egg argument. If we don't have enough people to do an organized night, so we're not going to do an organized night so we can get enough people. But, I enjoy that level, and I very much enjoyed being at like a real tournament thing. It's just an entirely different mindset. It's the guys that were at that last table put in the mental acuity and the digging at it to do good. So despite them keeping me out of the money, it's real kudos to all of them.
Well, and it bears repeating, I think, that Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is a very powerful card who requires a lot of very good decision making. You can't run him on autopilot, in my experience. In fact, a lot of the stories you hear of, example, my Bugs deck beat him last week at my local store. It's like, all right, but who was running him? Because you can run that deck real badly, just pick really dumb actions to play off of your flips with Optimus, and you're erasing a lot of the power of that deck. But I wanted to give a real specific shout out. This was my little, shouting at the esports kind of moment, because I was looking at it on my computer. Brian from Wreck and Rule made the top 4 with a deck that was unlike all of the other decks at the table, very specifically so, and I was really excited to see that. I was hoping he'd make it to top 2. I admit I kind of stopped doing immediate retweets when I saw he was out after the top 4, but he was running RC Fireflight, Prowl from Wave 1, and Wheeljack with Bumblebee from Wave 2 in the sideboard.
I think he was calling it Fire Wheels?
Yeah. That was really cool that deck made it to the top 4. I think that speaks highly for the hypothetical strength we always talk about with this game, which is that you don't need stacks of expensive characters to pull things off. RC, admittedly, is still like around $20-$25 over here in Canada, depending where you go. That's about it, though. So I was really excited that he made it that far. He posted his deck list on the Wreck and Roll Facebook page. It looks like it was a very Car-Z kind of thing with some confidence. He had a cornered in there in the sideboard. Had an I Still Function in the main board with 2 in the sideboard. I really want to know what the tech on that deck was. I'm sure that, with them having a YouTube channel, they'll explain it. But shouts out to Brian from Wreck and Roll for, I think, really representing the dream that you don't have to run the Bugs or the Big Optimus, the Sentinels, or the Dinobots to place. In fact, I was enjoying how many people commenting were going like, seems to be an absence of Dinobots in the top 8. It's just, anything that resists what we, the community, try to paint as the meta makes me happy. In your deck as well. I was really pleased that your deck ran, 3-3 with, it sounds like you had enough close games and it's a viable 4-2 even.
The quick rundown of my games, if you don't quite follow from Twitter, was my first game was a matchup against Dunicons, and that one went to length. And I think we actually wrote it down as 1 and a draw because neither of the judges that were there could tell us what the draw rules were, and we just timed out at the end.
New game, new OP, new game. Before you continue, because people might not know this, what was your deck?
Okay, yes, that's probably very important.
Yeah.
My deck was a similar deck as to the one that I played in LA, which was Blitzwing with Thrust and RC, with Grimlock on the sideboard. I only sided in Grimlock actually a couple times because there was never really a place where I think that the overflow damage was going to do me a lot of good, because I never got up against a wide deck that was doing a lot.
And and that would be siding him in place of Blitzwing, I'm guessing.
Siding him in place of Blitzwing, yeah. It's the only place he could go.
And just for how the deck works, obviously you're pumping RC with Thrust, you're defending with Blitzwing, you've got inverted.
So the idea is to get it's all orange and white cards for pips, which I wish that there were some other cards that were in better colors for me. But yeah, ideally it's that Blitzwing holds off for a round or two. Ideally I can get inverted to stick on him. And have him tank out while picking. If I've got a light target, maybe Blitzwing will get one in on him, but then let Thrust and RC do the hitting. And if it's somebody that's very defensive, use Thrust behind RC to spike a bunch of damage in.
Yeah.
So that was the first game with the Stunicons. Is I never did. I don't think until the game where he got it combined against the 5 wide, I just let Thrust and RC attack separately.
Yeah.
Because as long as Dreadwing's, or as long as Blitzwing's still out there, he's taking the hit, so I can flip Thrust to his other side to be 5 attack, 1 defense, and hit someone and get a couple points off, and then use RC to like murk the guy that's got 2 left and just kind of softened it up across.
And were the Menasor guys, like, or the player, was he running it primarily blue as people tend to?
He was running it blue heavy, yeah.
Okay. And this is a weird question, but imagining that there was no time cutoff, do you feel like there was a clear...
I would have had the second one as well, I think. I had 3 of his 5 out already, and I'd managed to keep inverted on Blitzwing, so he'd swing hard and Blitzwing would take 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And since I was also going wide like that, I had plenty of time to sit there and flip RC back and forth.
Yeah.
So I was able to take a point of damage off of him as well.
All right, cool. It's a nice thing to know, like, even if you run into a draw in the back of your head, you know, was that a deck that could counter yours hard or not? And it sounds like it was more just you were kind of grinding against blue, and you know, first game of this first major OP tournament, I'm sure there was a lot of, like, you know, lengthier play happening just naturally. So what's going on from there? What was your game 2?
Game 2 was against Bugs.
All right.
An orange Bugs, and I kept having my heart monitor on the watch tell me, "Hey, are you okay? Are you dying?"
Oh, really?
You're dying, aren't you? Yeah. My heart rate peaked at like 135 while it wasn't noticing me do anything. Hey, are you cool?
So thinking back to that, what was a moment that spiked you, do you think?
So I think what that was the first game went pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
And so it was just like playing with you at a convention or playing with anybody, doing a learn to play, whatever. There's nothing going on here. I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. And then it was Bugs is just gross. Both games, both times he led off with, is it kickback? That's the number of Insecticons you have?
Yeah.
Led off with kickback was like orange, white, orange, 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 double orange, double orange, double orange, double orange, double orange. On the first attack.
I know this feeling.
And it's just like, oh, well, Blitzwing's basically dead now.
We had some bug players at our when we were doing a couple like $5 tournaments during Wave 1. During which, that's when I developed Nemesis War Bomb, specifically because of the really bad feeling when a kickback would drop kick you in the neck. So having a blue heavy bombshell with tough one-off flame war it didn't mean I countered them hard, but it meant that I had like in my pocket this way of buffering against those moments, which helped a lot because it's a 3 defense, 4 defense type guy with tough up and 10 health, which is higher than a lot of the tank characters. But that's rough.
But it was definitely one of those cases where I was just sitting there, just kept watching him go. And so then, like, both of those games, Blitzwing was cracked very early, and then it was just down to, like, I've got Thrust and RC, and he's got 4 characters, one of which says can't take more than 3 damage at a time. And so when I sideboarded on that one, that is one that I did sideboard in Grimlock, hoping that Grimlock that the opponent would go for maybe Thrust or RC, and then maybe I'd get a little bit of a chance to do something else with it. But then, like I said, he did that again with kickback and just devoured Grimlock.
Yeah, Grimlock is
like Grimlock was down to 1 or 2 health, and he's always a prime target. I know this,
and he's not a very durable target either. Like he's a little glass cannony in my experience.
And then it was just a matter of like, so I attacked with him into kickback and pushed thrust behind him to try and peek him over. And then it was just like orange, white, white, white. I'm like, of all the times that white shows up and actually, didn't do much.
That's happened to me on a slug with Wave 2 slug is a really good defender as well, provided you flip all right. I had a very blue heavy deck, and I had a game. I was like, I'm going to lead with Slug. First flip, 4 white cards it was 5 white cards in a row, basically, with like, or maybe 1 blue because he flips 3 on a white.
Yeah,
I just flipped more white, and I was like, this ain't good.
Yeah. So that one, like at that point when he like murked out Grimlock and then like hit thrust pretty hard too, I just like scooped and shook his hand. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to play it out?" I'm like, "Do you need to play with your food?" Because he's like, "No, okay."
I think in hindsight, if I were like hard thinking on this tournament, with the high percentage chance that there were probably going to be a bunch of Bugs players, because that's kind of like it's a known go-to. Mm-hmm. It was a sideboard option I would think about would be One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall. Especially because when I think about it, with the power of the RC thrust punch, that means like if you're facing something where it's like I need to just erase one of these right now, it's like, all right, decent chance I can like, you know, do massive out of combat damage and then also do the RC punch. It's not guaranteed, but like in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, that would be a way to deal with, you know, the Scrapnel Wall, for instance.
Yeah.
That would also be a thing you don't want in your main deck, but that would fill in a weakness of the main deck. I've been trying to think about sideboarding for this game.
Right. And it's a thing that I actually had this discussion with Ken Nagel, their main rules guy.
Hey, I know that guy.
He's like the first... How did he explain it? The first couple of waves was like building the basis of everything and then not trying to go too specific in trying to build counters, because there is no thing such as organized play at this point. And so if you build a card that specifically like Optimus Prime only flips 1 card in this battle, like who's going to play that? Unless Optimus Primes become gross, then the meta plays that card for a little bit, so then nobody plays Optimus Primes, and then it's out. So it'd be a short-term fix. It'd maybe be good for local metas and reaction to that one guy that always plays that one card, but it's not something that'd be good. But that might be a really good sideboard card for if you go to a tournament and 9 out of the 16 top players are all having Optimus Prime in the deck. Mm-hmm. And you slip this one in.
Like,
so I think it's a thing that future waves may be able to adapt a little bit more to organized play, to have maybe secret actions or something of that nature that's like, oh.
Well, and I very much predict at Gen Con it's going to be the question of how prepared are you for Bugs, Sentinels, and Rare Optimus, because especially on the back of these results, I think a lot of the folks who enter and don't quite know what they're going to want to play are going to defer to one of those 3.
Yeah, and that'd be the thing, I think, also with Gen Con, because by then Wave 3 is going to be out, and I think that there is going to be a lot of strength in wide, like 4 or 5, like, wide decks that are a bunch of Battle Masters and the like.
Yeah.
Because there are cards that, like, get a bit... I keep saying like, I'm now thinking about it way too much. Like, you know, like... But there are characters that get a benefit on when one of your guys are KO'd that maybe are higher valued. And so it's really hard to play a deck where you're like, I kind of want him to die.
Yeah.
So that I can trigger this thing. But if you've got 4-star or 5-star, or maybe like a 6-star Battle Master type guy that, you know, you want him to die because then he becomes a thing that you get to use, and it's going to trigger these death effects. I think that could have some hard swings on stuff to punch
Well, and I'm just realizing
make a card really punch above its weight.
Like Gen Con's in early August. That means there will have been about a month with Siege, and that's gonna when I say those are going to be the default decks people go to, I think that's also going to be the case where you might, if you can really, in the span of basically July, get your teeth into Siege and sort out how that all works, how the secret actions work, and how to, have a sideboard that lets you use them to the best of their ability. Those are going to be the folks, I think, who take it at Gen Con, because there are going to be people who enter who are I think there are going to be people who enter who are just like, I guess I'll just run bugs. I guess I'll just run 3-wide Optimus Battlefield Legend. And it's going to be like, all right, well, those were things
those are going to be the rubes.
Well, either that or it's going to be like, those are actually still horrifically powerful. And, and then, bugs just wins.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious if the bugs, if people who would be told to play bugs might instead turn to the fire cons, because they're, even more straightforward red style aggro. Or not. I'm curious to see how it'll go, but I don't want to sidetrack too much. So that was game 2 with scary bugs,
so,
heart rate up.
Game 2, I'm 1-1. Game 3 was against a Cars player, and he said that I've not been playing a ton here. Brother, maybe friend, somebody brought him, and they've been playing for a bit, and he really enjoyed it and was played a very good Cars deck. And just piloted it very well, and the heart of the cards was with him. I'm pretty sure he had a good balance between orange and blue in that deck, and it seemed like every time he attacked, he was flipping oranges, and every time he was defending, he was flipping blues. And it was almost as quick as the Bugs game was, but it was at least one where it felt like I had some sort of control.
Yeah, you weren't staring at the orange sea.
Yeah, even though the match went 2-0 for the Cars player, it seemed more like he was also looking at his cards, making a decision based on what he had, and then playing that decision, versus the Bugs player very much felt like it was a straight flow chart of lead off, attack, this one, boop, this one, boop. Opponent has upgrade, do this, lead that. I was very much sitting there watching him run the basic flow chart. And if you can build a deck that lets you play it that way and it plays well, okay, but it makes it seem like it's already solved before we played cards.
That's the inherent weakness of the all-orange deck, in my opinion, is the all-blue deck has a similar weakness. I think it's actually worse for all-orange in that you know how much damage you, the person facing that deck, will do on every attack for the most part. And I found, at least during Wave 1, that made bugs way less scary to me. Granted, I was wielding Nemesis Prime at them, but it was I know how much damage I need to do, thus I know whether or not I need to play Leap into Battle, whether or not I need to play Grenade Launcher. Will Primary Laser be enough, thus letting me have these trump cards in my hand for future combats? And it meant, to me anyway, obviously orange decks are very strong, that's why they're doing well, but to me their biggest their biggest failing point, which I think balances them to some degree, is how hard you can hit them. And if you're able to build around that, especially with some out-of-combat damage, I'm trying to say that instead of direct damage now, but some out-of-combat damage, I think that's a way to play smart against them, and that's why I really enjoy hearing about, also that Aristocars deck. Shouts out to, I can't remember his name, the guy who developed that, where it went undefeated on, I think, the first day of competitions. That's also a very decision-heavy deck, with not a huge leaning towards one pip color, just had a notable leaning. I think that's the future of how to build decks for this game. How do I put this? It's the future of how to build decks for this game, where orange decks and blue decks obviously still have a place, but if you don't want to have to choose a color before you build, I'm really liking how much data we have that proves that there's validity in not leaning so hard if you don't want to.
Right. Right.
Also, this is a real comeback story, because this means you're coming off of basically 3 games of
So, well, I won the first one.
Yeah,
it just went long.
Yeah, but still, it's like a kind of hinky first one, and then two just like heart rate up, and then damn, you're flipping everything you need when you need it.
Yeah. So then the next one, I think I failed to text you one of them. I played against 2 Megatrons deck.
I saw you mention it on Twitter, but that was about...
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where... I'm not trying to jump in the story here, but I think this is where you said on Twitter, this is where you got one of your big, just fist pump moments.
Yeah. So that was my next one, was the 2 Megatron deck. I rolled back to my Twitter feed since you said it.
Yeah.
So that one, the first round... he'd managed to work it down a little bit, and I got a good hit in just lightly with it. It never super procced on everything, but it managed to be good hits. The second round against him, first round he attacks into Blitzwing. Blitzwing takes a hard hit. And I had played first, so then I played the lightning on...
Erratic Lightning, yeah.
Erratic Lightning on Thrust, and then Reckless Charge Thrust, him, RC, white, 2 orange, one-shotted one of his Megatrons.
Yeah.
Everybody untaps. His turn, he attacks into Blitzwing, does a decent body blow to Blitzwing, and then I attack with Blitzwing first. Blitzwing doesn't do a whole lot because he's got invert and just kind of goes, at that point. And then, so Erratic Lightning was still on Thrust. I played Power Punch. I played Supercharge on RC, and then went Bold 6, +6, and just murked the other Megatron. I was like, that's what this deck is supposed to do.
Yeah, that had to feel good, especially that. To me, that is where you then looked at that kickback, wherever that card was, and you just did the my eyes, your eyes motion.
Yeah.
You're like, I've activated now.
But it's definitely something that I think that Megatron deck was just playing. I don't know if he wasn't maybe optimized quite so well on his deck, or what tricky. It was.
Was it the Wave 2 Megatron, or was it the Wave 1 Megatrons?
I think it was a Wave 1 and a Wave 2.
Okay.
I can't remember. They were both 14 health, I want to say.
Crap. Off the top of my head,
my brain is all leaky for stats on stuff at this point.
My understanding is, having run Nemesis with Megatron Living Weapon before, and having talked to people running Megatron oriented stuff, when you get the Megatron cards to have the right upgrades on them, stuff starts happening, but it's very hard to optimize that.
Yeah, he wasn't, because one of them, he's like, I had Hunker down in my hand the whole time, but no armors ever ended up.
Oh, that just
in
sucks.
The scrap pile.
That sucks. That get me bummed out.
So it's definitely a thing that's here, let me go Decepticon and Leader with the official app.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, you want me? Let me. Okay.
Didn't know you went to Origins and just came back as an employee.
Yeah. Hey, man, if they give me the options here.
Yeah.
So it was the Megatron Living Weapon and Arrogant Ruler.
Yeah. Because that there is a synergy in there of all the extra upgrade play type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing at least in one game he must have been able to do the thing of I'm just going to stack a bunch of grenade launchers or something onto Living Weapon and then just pile drive somebody.
He got armed hovercrafts on him, which kind of sucked because and I won't even say that it necessarily sucked because it was getting damage on Thrust and RC.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like any of that was getting through, Yeah. Since he didn't have more stuff. He was spreading the damage, but not they could take a couple of side shots.
Those armed hovercrafts sound like when I'm just not drawing what I need, and it's this is the one thing I can do. In another situation, this would be scary. This is me paddling water because where the hell are my cards?
Yeah. So then I was 2-2. And then I went up against someone that was playing Grimlock RC Thrust. And and it was a younger kid, and I think that he knew what the trick of the deck was, but I don't think that he knew when not to do the trick of the deck.
Yeah.
The specific moment was, and I like tried to, so what happened was, I think it was our second game. Blitzwing was at 12 damage, just needed one more to go out. And I had taken out his Grimlock, and he had RC and Thrust, and attacked with RC into Blitzwing, and had Thrust follow along.
Mm.
And I looked at him like, I think I said, "Is that what you want to do?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he flips a bunch of cards, and I flip a bunch of cards, but I know that it's pierced because I'm playing the same thing. And it's like, okay, he only needed 1 damage, and you dealt him like 8.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then I put it aside, and now I've got my RC and Thrust both ready to go against his RC and Thrust that are just sitting there waiting. And so I just go, okay, RC and Thrust into your RC. Everybody untaps. And then you attack, and then he attacked with his Thrust into my Thrust. And then it was RC Thrust. Good game.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I know that trick works and it hits things hard, but you got to know when to change that up and when to pay attention to the math, because all you had to do was turn RC sideways.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, okay. And I was like, I don't know if you're like, yeah, okay, you got it, or maybe something else was going on. I don't know. And it's the rough thing that, like, there were some young kids, preteens that were playing, and like, I don't know necessarily, like, any kid that age, I think, is going to have their own way of learning stuff and trying to be the guy across the table necessarily guiding it. I don't know.
I once played against, when I was in Victoria doing demos at Capital City Comic Con, I had a 10-year-old sit down who was very confident in his ability to play card games. And I was thinking, yeah, this guy. Turns out, no, he actually really knew how to play card games. And in the course of 1.5 demos was basically like doing, thinking multi-turns ahead, setting up stuff and whatnot. So it was almost like, it's like what you're describing, but in the other direction. This guy, he's also like 10 years old, had a card player type fedora on. I just remember the whole time in the first demo, I was like, oh, this guy, I'm going to wipe the floor with what the hell's going on.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that was a little bit rough to, like I said, figure out what that pacing was.
It's tricky, like knowing like when to, like you said, when to open up your two character trick to get smacked in the face.
Yeah, because like I said, I did that my first round because that was the thing that was better. And somebody's firing off big fireworks, if you heard that.
I just assumed that was like your bones or something.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
So, that's the thing that more so is like having to figure out what the right rhythm for things is. And then my last game was up against a guy that was playing Sentinels that had that he'd already qualified, and he was in, I guess, to get more siege packs and prize wall points. And very much saw that I don't know if he was even running the Sentinel Enigma.
Oh yeah, there's a version of that deck that leaves it out for another card.
Yeah,
and I probably I've been running a version of the Sentinels, and I leave the Enigma in because I like having that in my back pocket. I can definitely say I've only run it once or twice, but I never actually saw a moment, winning or losing, where I was like, now is the time to combine, because it's like I think you would do that if you're down to 1 or 2 characters, and combining would basically be a health boost, or not even a health boost, a power boost.
Yeah,
there might be a
stats boost.
Yeah, there might be a time for that, but that deck runs terrifyingly.
Yeah,
is what I'll say.
And the first round, I think that I started off with a inverted in hand, in my opening hand and managed to get a couple of good blows in before he could get like everything lined up right the way that he needed. But then the second one, he just stomped on me. And then the third one had a good back and forth where I was keeping pace until about the end when he had two of the like Sentinel commands or whatever.
Yep.
On, and was just like every time he'd attack, it's like, flip Hot Rod back and forth and plink RC for one. Flip Hot Rod back and forth, plink RC for one. Now Blitzwing is down after those two attacks come in, hit RC. Oh, those two that plinked already were enough to make this 5 damage be enough to take it out, and rolled from there.
Yeah,
so
if you can get those the combat commands thing on, I think that deck just becomes really hard to weather. Having played it a bit, the one thing I noticed about that deck is it hits super hard, but then your two bold guys are also, they're not fragile, they are just punchable. They still have 10 health each, which is hard to deal with, but if you're able to just like pile drive into one of them and get one of them off the table ASAP, so at least it's versus 2, that seems like one of the tricks to do against Sentinels.
And that's one that he did a very good job of, lead with one, wait for like the last moment to attack with the other.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. And it just hard to beat when it's a good player with a good deck.
Yeah, it's another deck that is kind of skill intensive to make the best use out of. Like, you can play it like a straightforward aggro deck and it still is pretty good. But like if you're it's the thing I've been picking up lately is like keeping track of like for instance with your deck, it's like the obvious thing to do is lead with Blitzwing. But then there's a version of damage mitigation where if you think RC or Thrust can survive getting punched once, probably Thrust, right. You lead with one of them, they take a hit, then you lead with Blitzwing, so they gotta pile into Blitzwing, and it's like Brave is like less of this guy's the shield and almost more of like there's a way to play it where it's like Brave is also, when they want to attack the Brave guy, you're like, I'm gonna go with the Brave guy last. And then you go with the Brave guy last, then they're like, all right, he's got 1 damage left. You're like, yeah, now we're all untapped, it's your go. Oh, you gotta go with the Brave guy. It's like playing with mechanic, like that's not with the Sentinels obviously, but like playing with where your opponent has to attack is I think a higher level trick, but a very interesting way that the game acts at aforementioned higher levels. That seems like a really difficult thing to do with the Sentinels. Was there ever a period of like making you go into Optimus?
I took the swings at Optimus early on,
because Optimus is like the least scary probably of the 3 to me.
Yeah, that was more so, he led with Optimus once, and then it was a matter of like Optimus is the closest to dying, so trying to get him off the board. Yeah, when there's 2 targets and one of them is within, if I go white and a couple of double oranges, I'd be able to get him.
Because I feel like it's not to say that Optimus is bad, because he still hits, like a metaphorical truck. He doesn't have the tag on him.
Like a truck, yeah.
He doesn't have a truck tag, so it's like a metaphorical truck. The other 2 are, I think, way more dangerous. And also, Optimus is deceptive, because I think it's really easy to not notice that he has 50% more health than the other 2. And if you get tunnel vision on Optimus, you're basically like, you're just chipping away at a giant tree trunk. While the other 2 guys with 10 health, if you're able to like set up a big RC thrust on one of them, I feel like that's probably the way to go. And I'll say this also, I'm hypothesizing in hindsight for a game I wasn't present for.
Yeah.
So I'm not like...
and the rough thing is also a couple of those games went quick enough where I didn't have like the right pieces in hand, because like, for example, one of the Cars games, when he was hitting it just right, like I had it was I had my opening hand, I had 2 equipments, 1 action, or I had 2 equipments, treasure hunt, and ramming speed, I think. And so, like, when it was my turn, I play an equipment and play the treasure hunt, and I get 4 equipments. Okay, shoot, should have played the treasure hunt first.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy mistake to make.
Few more options.
That's just what'll come with play experience. Like,
right, but so that was like, should have done that the other way. All right. The next card that I drew after the attack and after the defense was another treasure hunt. Okay, this time I do it right. Treasure hunt. Another perfect treasure hunt. So now I have like 9 equipments in my hand. Or 9 upgrades in my hand. And it's like, okay, at this point, like I can bashing shield to knock his bashing shield off. Okay. Do our round. And then I draw another upgrade, and it's like I need ways to turn these upgrades into actions, but at least that deck doesn't have a way to do that with any regularity.
That's the thing I'd caution about. Another thing I've kind of been picking up recently is bashing shield for bashing shield is generally, in the long run, I think it's actually a negative trade-off. Right. Because you're basically giving up a bashing shield to put bashing shield back into their rotation to use again. Yeah. If you can leave someone actually trapped with a bashing shield, I find that can be really rough.
But it was definitely a matter of like, I didn't have anything, like I had no other plays. They had no other equipments out. I had 3 bashing shields inverted with Blitzwing already having inverted on them. Like, it was a bunch of non-plays, basically.
Yeah, I would have, to be honest, like, just not played it. Like, it would suck. But I would go, like, I'm going to hang on to these bashing shields. There's no... Unless it was, like... Well, unless the +1 would help.
I had 3 of them in hand, though.
Even with 3 in hand, I guess that makes more sense. But in that case, I would almost be thinking more like, who needs the +1 armor? And is it going to make much... Like, I guess just throw it on Blitzwing.
RC can always use more armor. Blitzwing can always use more armor.
Yeah, like, throw one on Blitzwing. But I think even with 2 in hand, I would almost go, like... Unless I know that they don't have another armor... Yeah, I'd be like, I'm just going to hold on to these, because I don't want you to have bashing shield back. I was also going to say, you haven't, like, as far as I know, you haven't had a chance to play as or against the Sentinels before this thing, have you?
No.
That's been a huge thing I've been trying to correct with my own knowledge base recently, is even just playing the deck yourself, it's demystify is a bit of a heavy word for it, but like it's playing 2 or 3 games as the Sentinels that lets me know, like, hey, I don't really need to worry about Optimus as hard as I need to worry about those other 2 guys. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another big thing that probably, you know, helped out a lot of those guys who hit like top 8 for sure, but, you know, just playing a ton of games. But I think keeping in mind, like, that you were going in, you weren't going in blind to what the decks were, but I think on a practical level, you were going in blind as to, like, having hands-on against a bunch of them.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think that means your results were super respectable, especially for a deck that is a hard-hitting but high-risk deck.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So in talking with, like, the Vector Sigma guys and a few of the other, like, solos that were kind of there that weren't parts of teams or anything, everybody, I got a lot of the same, like, reaction as I'd gotten at TFCon LA, where people like, I really want to play against that deck because it's an oddball thing, and like see how it's working and see what's going on, and like how, okay, I see how this deck works. How does my deck react to it? And a few of them were like, man, I'm glad I didn't go up against you, because since it's not one of, you know, it's not Optimus Prime, Battlefield Legend, or Bugs or Cars, they didn't necessarily have, like, the tech to get around it.
Yeah.
Quite. And I didn't go up. I mean, I went up against Bugs, and Bugs just ate with kickback with gross orange flips. So that just got rid of that armor shield, and away we went.
Like, I suspect if you'd gone in, if you had the ability to get more regular games in, I suspect, A, that you actually probably would have beaten that Bugs guy. Or at least
he had the heart of the cards on flips.
Oh yeah, but I think at the least it would have been a loss where you were not in a position of like, I think I should just scoop. Because I think it would have been through your sideboard probably. Like having in your area played against bugs, hypothetically, you probably would have gone in with 1 or 2 cards in your sideboard of like, when I got to deal with those things. And so I think like between that and your deck being, one of the quote unquote oddball decks, I think A, you did really well, all things considered, and B, you probably would have hit top 8 with more just like gameplay experience under your belt, just to have like a lot of that knowledge there before game 1. Because it sounds like in some, like not for all of them, it sounds like in some games like game 1 was in part like, wait, okay, so how does his deck work when I'm actually looking at it?
Right.
I'm saying all this partly like just to really, it's like, from my own experience too, expound on the value of actually just playing the game a bunch as opposed to theorizing on it without cards in front of you. There's a lot about this game that I think presents itself in actual gameplay, and it's really important to just get games in, because even like run the decks that you don't like, that you've heard about, if you think a lot of people run them. So at least if you run that deck once, you have an idea of how it works from that perspective. That A, will demystify that deck for you to some degree in a positive way, and then B, it might reveal weaknesses in that deck through you playing it and going like, if you're losing with it, like, how am I losing? And then how can I make that happen to someone who's playing it?
Right.
If possible.
And that's the thing that, I definitely didn't have that time and the like lock on it to be. So I feel good about where I ended up.
Me
ultimately,
too.
I wish I could have just the timing on the last game, since we did 6 rounds. Like, I could have done the afternoon since they pushed it back from 4 to 5. But with as long as my last game went, they said, oh, you can get in the next one. You just have to take a round 1 loss. And my brain's running out the side of my head at that point, because I hadn't had lunch, and just that is a lot of mental energy that goes into playing CCG for 6 hours.
Oh yeah,
I was not expecting.
Yeah, like when like in those little like tournament situations I've been in, even like a sealed tournament, I've been astonished how fatigued I get from like, being the pilot of a deck, basically. Like it really surprised me.
Yeah, that was that level of fatigue, and like I said, my wristwatch telling me, "Hey, you okay? You dying there? We need to call 911."
Seems you somehow activated brain death all by yourself.
And a part of me thinking, why, yes, watch, I would like emergency services. No, I don't have that turned on my watch, but apparently it is an option that you can.
Hey.
But yeah, no, I had a good time at Origins.
You cracked a siege pack.
I cracked a siege pack. I got Sergeant Scrapnel, Private Taraxodon, which Taraxodon's the one I'm interested in for sure. Trying to figure out something to do with that. Laser Cutlass, Covert Armor, Device Virus, Combat Dagger, Medic, and Battlefield Report.
Yeah. So you got our hot, fresh preview. Well, none of our preview cards are in there, though, are they?
No.
Oh, man. Throw it out.
But,
throw the whole thing out.
Yeah, there were 8 people that got full boxes out of the top 8 at the end.
Yeah.
So
friggin' cool prize.
Yeah. I saw somebody offering up their pack for $30 on eBay.
That seems real hopeful.
Yeah.
Given that, you know what? That's not hopeful. I will say that's pretty dumb, because you know for a fact that there are going to be 8 boxes going at. That's what, 8 times 36 or 24? I always forget.
30.
8 times 30. So that's 240 packs getting into the system in the same day.
Right.
Yep.
Well, along with everybody that played got a pack. So if I'd played again in the afternoon, I'd have gotten another pack. There are people that played in all 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of them out there at this point.
Yeah, I would call $30 for the pack right now hopeful in another scenario, but the more I think about it, the fact that over multiple days people could get 1 or 2 packs,
and in a matter of 2 weeks,
yeah,
you can just get them.
Anywhere. I mean, I'm sure they're not a dumb person. It's just I think that if you didn't take into account that 8 boxes were going into circulation that same weekend, maybe someone will pay you $30 for it, and that someone would be pretty dumb. I'll be surprised if that sells, and if it does, then I apologize if the person who bought it is listening to this, but, like, you're dumb. Don't spend $30 on a pack of cards that's out in 2 weeks. Come on. That's cool, though. I'm very glad that you had a good time. I agree. I think you did pretty darn well. Doubly so in context of just, your level of practical experience and ability to play the game face to face with people. And the event,
I only peed myself like once. So
yeah, you only peed yourself once. So, like, hey, grats for that too. Also, by the way, congratulations. I got through because I gave Brian a shout out from Wreck and Rule. I also want to give a shout out to the Vector Sigma guys for doing basically debriefs every day out of their hotel room or wherever it was they were staying.
Okay.
So they were basically like just giving a breakdown of what they faced and what they saw in the field every day. They looked very tired in half those recordings, so I appreciate that they were doing that. Also, of course, to Ken Nagel and John Shork. John Shork doubly this like being on that social media while there. Like, we were seeing a lot of stuff go up in the moment as games were going on. Huge shouts out to Stefan, the guy who won the whole thing. He did, as far as I understand it, a real darn good job.
He did. I watched him play some in the Saturday afternoon, and he actually sat, like, the two of us were sitting there talking for a bit, and he was one that had a lot of interest in, like, my results with my deck and was, like, trying to figure out, like, oh, so you do this and this. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. So even if he was just BSing me the whole time, he was a cool dude.
I'm sure, like, the folks who take the game seriously enough to go in confidently to get into the top 8, if not top 4, if not winner, want to know more about decks they've never seen. Especially, in Stefan Pinkney, I believe is his full name. If you're going to the Energon Invitational, you have no idea what you're going to be looking at. Especially since that will be in the realm of Wave 4, as we discussed in the previous podcast on here. That means that you want to be able to like with Wave 2 right now, there are so many decks that, like, I just want to know how they work, not even with the idea I'm going to play against them or use them, but with the idea that I'm going to then go into Wave 3 knowing how some more of this stuff works, basically. And I'll have an idea of what all the characters I already have from Wave 1 and 2 can do as I get Wave 3. That's something I found with Wave 2, is, like, I was so zoned in on about 2 or 3 decks in Wave 1. I went into Wave 2 and I was just staring at the character spreads for a couple weeks, because I was like, I don't even know how some of my Wave 1 guys work. I've not heard any practical reports on them. I don't have the experience myself. 2-pack Sealed's also been invaluable for that, like, just kind of forcing me to play some characters.
Okay.
I say all this as someone who also really enjoys this game and thinks it's a good game. Like, that's, and I'll obviously say you don't need to do all this to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
But, if you want to really dig in, if that's fun for you, like, that's been really fun for me as a way to dig in without getting, like, full-on mathematical about it.
Right.
But, yeah, shouts out to Brian, shouts out to Stefan, shouts out to Vector Sigma, shouts out to John and Ken, shouts out to you, Aaron, for going and then talking to me afterwards. I have one more. Shouts out to Cameron Edishami, who was also out there, who was a listener to these podcasts, that guy, who was putting up info on how things went before anyone else, particularly on the first 2 days.
We chatted quite a bit.
Yeah, he was sharing. He was the one who shared the top decks in the very first qualifier. It was just really helpful, and I don't know if I gave proper credit. I was linking to the Reddit threads when I could, but, like, huge shouts out to Cameron for getting that info out there ASAP. There are a lot of people maybe a little too aggressively hungry for info on straight up deck lists, like, right now. And Cameron was getting info out there that gave all of us something to chew on right away. I believe he's the one who, it was between him and Vector Sigma, who immediately got the info out there that Aristocars went undefeated, or at least went 4-0 in that first tournament. And so, yeah, I want to give him particular shouts out. He's been doing a lot of good work, just being a good poster on all the various communities, TFWs included. So I think that does it for my shouts out. Aaron.
Hey.
How you feeling?
Tired.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Anything else about that experience you want to talk about? Like Origins on the whole. Did you do anything else?
So, Origins, not a ton. So they had a decent, like, dealer room area that I did a few laps of. Trying to think. So the 12 prize wall points I got. I got dice for Alfie. They had these like metallic gold dice, and she's a crazy fan for dice. And I got a couple of the Modern Horizons packs. That way I can just say I've not bought any Magic.
Yeah.
Directly.
Hey, you pulled the Sliver Queen or whatever. No, the first Sliver.
No, I got the
it's the Bear Queen, not the Sliver Queen.
Yawgmoth.
Oh, you got Yawgmoth.
Yeah.
People want him for Commander.
And then I also got one of the Pain Lands,
those
tap it deals a damage or
they have
destroy
a name.
It to draw a card or something.
Canopy lands, that's what it is.
Whatever, yeah.
Because it was originally just Horizon Canopy.
Hey, both of these seem like they're decent, and I went and I looked them up. I'm like, I could sell each of them for like $8 or $10 or something.
Yeah, no, the Canopy lands.
And then like as I had it, there were enough of the places like we buy cards. I was like, I don't know how this works, but I don't want to be the guy that walks up with like, I bought a pack.
Yeah. Well,
will you buy the pack?
The Canopy lands are a form of basically they're a dual land, therefore they're going to be valuable. They're more
mana fixing. They're always going to be valuable.
Yeah,
yes,
and Yawgmoth, as I understand it, like just Commander players seem real hyped about a lot of the legends.
Yeah, because he's got 2 or 3 different tricks that you could definitely build Commander stuff around.
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to say you pulled Urza in the second pack, and I'm like, all right, I'd
be like, all right, I'm done. And then I got a couple of just Wave 1 packs. Just because, and I pulled an RC that actually then sold to Setashami.
Oh, nice!
Because we were sitting there talking this afternoon or this morning today, and he was like, "Yeah, I still need RC for Wave 1," and so I start digging in my bag, and he keeps talking, and then I go and I dig out the RC. He's like, "Oh wait, what? Oh really? Well, what do you want to trade for it?" I'm like, "I got one of everything, man. Like, what's it go for cash?" He's like, "Oh, you just do a cash deal?" I was like, "Yeah, this is like my 4th or 5th RC at this point. Here." And so I got him the RC, and he was very happy because now he can try a bunch of RC craziness. So
nice.
So go on and do great or horrible things with it.
Also, quick additional shout out, because I keep forgetting to mention them, and I feel really bad about it. Pastimes, who did the running of all the events and who, in reported words, kind of had to learn a lot about Transformers very quickly.
Yeah, there were a few times, and I was a part of 1 or 2 of them, when there was a judge call where I'm pretty sure that those judges were running down the Magic the Gathering judge call flowchart.
Mm-hmm.
When I think that, my understanding is they learned how to play Magic much earlier in the week.
Or Transformers,
much earlier in the week. And so, maybe they've not had the chance to play it, to know some things where they were asking for, what's the current board state, and explain it, and then they'd ask a couple of questions that, you can answer, but it's not,
they're based on Magic, which has
relevant
an interruptible action stack.
Right.
Whereas Transformers is certainly not 100% linear. There are times when simultaneous things happen, but for the most part, Transformers is it's a very straightforward list of events that take place.
Right.
So yeah, you can answer those questions, but it's almost a little much.
Yeah.
Because it's there's only really one answer to this question.
So that, and about the only other thing that was a little bit hitchy that I think they're still trying to work through is what the process should be once time is called. Because there was concern that the active player finishes their round, and then the other player gets a round. And so there was one case where it was like the active player would just start an attack, so then they're basically done.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other player gets to do whatever, knowing it's the very end of everything.
That's common with Wizards time stuff. That's happened in Magic a whole lot, I think.
Right. But like a couple of people had mentioned, like, well, what if instead it just goes to the end of everybody being tapped? That the has happened, and then that's it.
Yeah, because our game has an actual visible cycle,
right?
That happens as opposed to Magic, where it's turn to turn.
Yeah,
I think that actually would be specific to Transformers. That would probably make sense, at least to try it out.
Right. But it's all definitely something where, hey, it's the very first organized play event, and that might just be it. So
yeah, we discussed this a little bit in that last podcast about how this is year one, and obviously there's going to be data taken from this that'll be applied, in hindsight, as to whatever ran well and what ran difficult. I just want one more shout out, because I was just looking at the Transformers TCG Twitter. They retweeted _ nanomachines _ was in the top 4 and had been beaten out by Stefan, and then tweeted about it with a photo with him afterwards. So that's one more of the top 4. And I think the other guy in the top 4 was one of the dudes from Vector Sigma, but I don't remember which one. But there, we shouted out the top 4. At least in a vague sense. Aaron, are you feeling, obviously you don't know precisely what the Gen Con spread will be, because Siege will be out by then, but are you feeling more confident going into potentially playing a Gen Con?
I would definitely feel more confident going into Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't go with... I think it was good as a disruptor that it wasn't just playing a meta deck.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, playing a deck that a lot of other people have played allows you to have a whole lot more, like, other people have worked out the issues.
And in your scenario where you don't have a regular play group, that might end up being a bigger boon to you.
Right. So what we need to do is we need to get a WTF at TFW team.
Yes.
Where we just steal a bunch of ringers from other groups and let them work everything out, and then just feed those deck lists to us.
Yeah.
And then we just roll in like, yeah, whatever. We had people working this all month.
I mean, I want to steal Brian from Wreck and Roll. If you're down, we'll figure out what the bribe is.
And we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Off air.
To be honest, I think because theirs starts with a W as well, and I think they're cool. I just want to I want the heel turn to be the Wreck and Roll guys open their jackets and it's just our logo.
Yeah.
We'll just be like the scumbag NWO Bullet Club.
Surely we can get Tony to figure out the whatever t-shirt print thing again and get a couple of TFW.
We're not very good at playing, but we got the money.
Yeah.
So we'll be destined to eventually lose, but we'll be remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down for being the TCG heel group. That works. Thank you, Aaron, for taking some time out of your Sunday after a whole lot of travel and heart rate and etc. To give me some backup. We're not posting this one right away. I'm probably going to space this out a little bit since it's personal reports. It's not like this is news. But we have done another TCG podcast, so pats on the back all around. Good job, Aaron. Good job, Chris. Thank you, Chris. We're going to figure out some more TCG stuff to talk about. Because the game is picking up. I didn't see the number, but there were I think someone said there were 50 plus registered players over this weekend.
120 plus unique players.
Holy damn. That's pretty darn cool. I did not think we were going to triple digit.
I think that's the number that I heard.
I didn't think we were going to triple digit. That's friggin' cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's not obvious, I'm kind of a cheerleader for this game because I like it. So bear that in mind when I'm saying all this. But I think that's friggin' cool. I'm looking forward to getting in some. We got release events actually coming up here in Toronto for Siege. It looks like the Siege weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, there will be a sealed at a different store each one of those days.
Nice.
And I think I'm just going to go to all of them, because that means in the course of 4 sealed events, I'll basically have bought almost a box. But with promos and pricing and gameplay. So, hey, let's do it. And I had something else I was going to say. Right. This was a bit of a tangent, but when you're talking about Heart of the Cards, I had a quick story. I ran my Volcanicus deck recently, which has a lot of card draw. And I drew a lot of my card draw, because the idea is I really want to have an I Still Function in my hand ASAP. Because I'm actually running it kind of like the Sentinels, where it's more about I'm running 3 Dinobots who are beating you up, and I just keep healing them. Which can be... I have seen the hope drain out of people's eyes when I heal 3 Dinobots that were all 1 or 2 health away from dying. So, I had a lot of card draw. I drew a lot of cards. I very specifically drew and flipped just perfectly to, in 2 recycles, never have an I Still Function in my hand. It was all just perfect. It was like, I drew 5 cards. Oh, I Still Function was the 6th card. I drew 2 cards. I Still Function was the 3rd card. I draw 4 cards. Oh, it was the 7th one. And I'm like, I remember it was like when I hit my second recycle, and after 2 turns of not drawing it, I was like, I think I got a scoop, because there's no way I'm winning this. My guys are dead, and I'm not healing them. I was like, here, I don't have I Still Function, and all 3 of them are in my scrap pile. So unless you do no damage to me for the next like 4 or 5 turns, you got it. It was only a slightly salty scoop, but I was like, no, this was clearly bad luck as well. Which is a part of shuffled card games, but yeah, there's my little how I lost story. Also, I tried a new deck out. I built a King Starscream deck. The King Starscream combo is friggin' cool when it happens.
Yeah.
And I built it with the idea of a sideboard, which I recently tested out. The sideboard is to surprise transform the deck into an Optimus Battlefield Legend deck by switching him with Starscream. And switching a bunch of cards for just like plus attack actions. It's not perfect. I realized that switching in some bold cards doesn't really work when 3/4 of the deck is still that Starscream deck. But outside of that, it kind of works. I'm going to keep workshopping it with Siege. I'm going to workshop it some more. I would really love to figure out a way to play Optimus Battlefield Legend, but without it being one of those decks. Like, it's more like you're playing against a King Starscream, and if I fight someone, for instance, who has a whole bunch of system reboots, which is how you just deactivate Starscream in some scenarios, I'll be like, all right, get a sideboard. Just, all right, now you're playing against Optimus Battlefield Legend. Go ahead and just, like, flush my hand as much as you want. Let's do this. It worked kind of okay. I'm having a lot of fun playing with sideboard jank like that, like, just, like, changing the entire deck. I'm trying not to get too attached to anything, because, like, obviously Siege is about to come out, so it's, all the decks are going to be reset once that happens.
Right.
But I'm playing with that, and I'm kind of diddling around with the idea of Nemesis Flame War and another specialist to try some specialist shenanigans, during which Nemesis is doing his little power-up. I'm getting ideas, because I really want to give a real hard go at one of the, when we have the store championships come up that are qualifiers for the Energon Invitational. I really want to go to that tournament. I'm not going to be like sad if I don't, but I really want to give it a good try. So I want to.
Yeah.
I'm completely open to the idea that I end up just like running one of the known deck types. But if I can sort out something that is weird, I would love to pull that off, because this is a game where that still seems to be quite viable, and I think it would be a leg up going in if I feel confident about building something off kilter, as opposed to like trying to pilot really well something that's a known variable. So anyway, that's me like talking about myself a little bit, but I'm just selfish because I want to do that. I talked to Aaron a whole bunch. I interviewed myself, and now we've hit the end of the podcast. Aaron, thank you again for joining me. And
you're welcome.
I guess I'll see you next month. That's when TFCon. Yeah, literally a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Holy crap.
Like, I hope that happens. It'd
be really weird if TFCon doesn't happen, because a whole bunch of people are coming for it, so...
Yeah. It's kind of scared with the car shenanigans that, it said it has to be a car, but...
Yeah.
No, I just needed an oil change. She got really temperamental.
And hopefully we'll have some, TCG or otherwise, we'll have some good stuff to talk about from TFCon. But hey, you know what? People are probably going to play TCG at TFCon.
I hope so.
And I intend to be one of those people. I intend to, with Siege being new, and we're going to have it in Canada, it's going to be even playing field. I want to get some friggin' game time in with all the visiting folks coming in for TFCon. So if anyone out there listening is coming to TFCon, bring your friggin' deck with you, because I'm going to play you. Aaron will too.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron needs to, because that's, I got to be his, I was saying this on Twitter. I couldn't do it at Origins. I probably can't do it at Gen Con, but like Aaron's like Rocky Balboa, I gotta be his Mickey. I gotta be the snarling little dude in my version.
Like, cut me!
Yeah.
Cut me! Like, why do you need cut? I don't know!
Just put on a toque and an eye patch and just go like, all right, you mangy bum! Play all these different deck archetypes! You gotta be your opponent to know how to defeat your opponent, you scum. Mm-hmm. You're just like, why are you abusing me like this?
Chris, the match was over like 10 minutes ago.
I can't believe you're letting him walk away. Break his leg. If he beats you in cards, make him remember it with his body. So we're gonna have some fun at TFCon. Don't break anyone's leg; you'll get thrown out of the convention. Yeah, it's actually, in my country, it is illegal. So don't do that. But we'll talk to you all later. Thanks for tuning in, be it on the regular podcast feed or over on YouTube, because that's where I'm putting the TCG ones as well. If you're on YouTube and you like what you hear and you want to hear us talk about other stuff, we also have the full-on podcast called WTF at TFW. It's over on TFW 2005. Take part if you like, and we'll talk to you later. Stay safe.
What the fuck's going on down there?